Hey everyone, this is Felicia. Welcome back to Money with Mission and Wealth Be Hers podcast. And today we're going to be talking to Will R. Young. Before I get into that, remember that this podcast, Wealth Be Hers, is sponsored by Money with Mission, where we believe that every woman should have the financial ability to walk away from any job or relationship that is not in her best interest. To that end, we have different people on the show talking about ways to we talk about money a lot, but we talk about mindset. We want to make sure that your mind is right for all the things that come to you financially and to be able to use that money the way you want to use it to get to your why. We talk about that a lot in this podcast. So buckle up, listen in. Will is a behavioral finance expert, practicing Stoic philosopher, and financial advisor with more than 20 years of experience. Like, you guys going to go look those things up and go, how do those things go together? He's going to get you there. He has helped hundreds of individuals and families move beyond spreadsheets and into conversations that actually matter. His philosophy: most people don't need more information about money, they need better stories. In the Enough Equation, the book that he wrote, he shares the stories and questions that have helped transform not only his clients' portfolios, but their lives. So, you guys are going to enjoy this conversation. I really, really, really know you are. Let me ask you something, because this is some stuff from his book. If you believe that wealth is about control, you'll chase power. If you believe that wealth is about status, you'll chase comparison. If you believe that wealth is about freedom, you'll live differently. Here's the catch: most people never pause long enough to ask what they believe at all. Have you paused during the beginning of a new year? If you're ready to take that pause, if you want to really have time to think about why you're doing what you're doing, I have a place for that. We are having our first annual Wealth Be Hers retreat in Dominica at the Jungle Bay Resort, March 25th through 29th. We still have a few openings. This is for a small group of women. I want us to become friends. This is going to be your trusted group, your mastermind, who you can go to with your money fears, your money joys, all of the things that are going on in your life. So that is my goal with this trip. If that sounds at all interesting to you and you're ready to take a moment to figure out why you're doing what you're doing, go to moneywithmission.com under events and check out the Wealth Be Hers retreat. Schedule a call with me if you're not sure if it's for you. I'm happy to talk about it. Here we are, and we're going to have a fun conversation with Will R. Young about the enough equation and how do you know when you have enough? Enjoy. Hey, Will, thank you so much for joining me today on the podcast. I'm excited about our conversation from what we've been having off air. So let's get into it.
Great.
Good. You are on the podcast from Maryland. What part of Maryland are you in?
I live in downtown Baltimore. I live
Okay.
on the east side of the town.
I've actually been there. I had my best crab cakes ever in my life in Baltimore. And I'm still like, they talk about drug addicts running for that same high. I'm looking for that crab cake somewhere outside of Baltimore. Haven't found it yet. And it's been a lot of years. So when I come there, that is what I do.
Yeah, it is nice. And it's something we're well known for. And that's something along the lines that, of course, you come here and that's what we expect you to try. And
Yeah.
they are delicious. And typically they're pretty healthy too, which is
Yeah.
nice to have.
Exactly. Not like some of the ones in other places where there's more breading than crab. You guys, if you haven't had a crab cake in Baltimore, you haven't had a crab cake. That's all I'm going to say. Just leave it there. So, Will, you are a behavioral finance expert, practicing Stoic philosopher. And I gave you guys all that information in the intro. Now we're going to figure out what the heck that is. Go ahead and explain what you mean by both of those things.
I've always had this nagging feeling when I was young, like something was missing. Why do people do certain things and repeat them over and over again? Or when someone says something and they're wrong all the time and they're so-called experts, how come no one goes back and looks at them and their track record?
Uh-huh.
And I started this process many years ago. You especially see it in sports, politics, and business, where they're like, buy these stocks, do this, do that. And then they're often wrong, but seldom in doubt. And I really wanted to understand the psychology of how people could be so bold, yet be so wrong. And I just continued to read and study. And I bumped into Stoicism around 2010. And the same things happened then as today. The human mind doesn't change. And that ultimately led me, when I would read Seneca, they were talking about the Roman times where people were going to the Colosseums to forget what their daily lives were like, to watch sports and get all worked up in the mob and crazy crowds, and how they'd forget all the important things in life. And that resonates with me today as it just did 15, 16 years ago. And the second part of that is I continue to look for a better framework and understanding, which led me to ultimately find the kind of architect or the originators of behavioral finance, or in behavioral psychology, is this in similar sense, which was Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky. And that taught me things like the backfire effect. If you bring something up and someone's wrong, instead of them saying, oh, you're right, I should rethink that, they get defensive and attack you. And I had to understand these types of things. So that's what really led me to do it, is when someone's wrong, they'll just keep saying, well, I'm not wrong, they're wrong. I'm like, ultimately, your record of what you do, whether it's in business, sports, politics, forecasting, you have to be willing to make adjustments and listen, and you have to be honest with yourself. And so these stoicism and behavioral psychology finance really go hand in hand, because they're asking you to look deep at yourself and fix yourself. You can't change other people. And that's a very hard thing for most of us, because we always want to change everybody else, but we have to focus on ourselves internally. And once you do that, your life becomes much better.
S- That's a lot. So I always like to believe, I don't always get there, that people are doing things for good reasons. Even people who are lying, there's a positive reason behind the reason they're telling that lie. And what you just said is what I heard you say is that you have to look at yourself to improve yourself instead of improving everything out there. If you think you're right, how do you look at yourself to know you need to improve anything? Just
Well, I built my own mental models for this, because I have conversations where I would bring something up, and they would instantly get upset, because they would be like, I like that person. If they like that person, they want to protect that person. It's very common in politics. You have this halo effect, or you have this identity where your identity is tied to somebody, and they just latch onto it. It's very similar to if you ask someone to clean their room and they go crazy. I'm not cleaning my room. Don't tell me what to do. And you're thinking, I, it's called reactance. People have this behavior where about half the population reacts that way. The other
uh-huh.
half doesn't. It's just kind of the numbers. And when people are wrong, instead of saying, you know what, I should probably clean my room, they go, well, you don't do everything perfect. This attack phase, the back and forth. So what I'm answering is, instead of me allowing them to ruin my day, I wanted to figure out, I'm never going to win them over in an argument, because a lot of people don't argue on facts. You're a doctor. You go and you use research and they hand you research. You're like, oh, I got to look at this. But half or more than half the population doesn't do that.
Yeah.
They, they're, they're not willing to be open minded, growth minded, egalitarian.
Mhm.
They say, because their identity is tied to something, it's through the cultural cognition bias. And when that happens, you have to have a way to reach them. And so it's a completely different set of rules. You have to ask them questions, listen for their claim, verify their definitions, because often the definition in their head is so different. It's like they come in and say, my knee hurts, and they're pointing to their head. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yes, 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 yeah.
So
Yes.
we have to connect. So we have to do all the work. And instead of getting mad at that, now that I kind of have this formula, it's from Socrates all the way up to today, I can then ask these questions like, could you explain the reason behind this belief? You're not attacking them. And then you realize they don't know. They don't know any of this. And
Mhm.
that's where you can start to have conversations. And I saw it in sports all the time. you ask them a question, what do you think about this? And they automatically switch to something else because they don't know. And so you have to make them feel conversational or they'll just attack you. And when they attack you, you don't get to the root cause of the problem. So that's, and we all see it with the politics right now because people tie their identity to it. No matter what this person does, they can change every single day and the people will go with it no matter what. It's called identity fusion
Mm.
and identity threat. So that could be the same with a stock. I grew up with IBM stock or Disney stock, or I work for them. I'm not going to sell that. It doesn't matter if the stock goes to zero. So
Okay.
it's all related.
Okay. Okay. So now I'm going to have you tie it to how you're, as a financial advisor, how do you tie this to your clients and helping people have better or different behaviors with their money?
You have to really understand the type of person you're going to sit with. Women tend to be much less emotional with investments. They tend to understand if you write something up, you tell a narrative and a story, and you're there with them, they listen and tend to understand that much better. Men tend to overthink and pay attention too much to the daily noise, too
Mhm.
much. They probably listen to too much news, so they're kind of going up and down. It's like sports. Like Sunday, if their team loses, they're in a terrible mood Monday, but their life hasn't changed, and that can be the same with the stock market and stuff like that. I don't like sports, so it doesn't matter for me. But understanding that you can get in front of it and say these are going to have these situations occur. What I want to do is when the market comes down, I'm always going to have cash available so that when it's Boxing Day or it's January and the sales hit, we can go in and buy Disney or Walmart stock at a discount. That's what we want to do. Women can, that makes sense. Why overpay for something? Because you typically understand value better. Where men, they want to chase things that are like, oh, it's going up. I want to buy more of it. I'm like, well, you probably should have bought it a year ago, but you get it. It depends on their social circles. And if they're together and they're talking together, a lot of times people overprice things because their friends are talking about it. So it's
Mm.
readily available. So you have to kind of understand what are they listening to? How are they getting their information? And then kind of get in front of them and speak to them because now that I've done it so long, it's a little bit more natural, but I'll write it up and then I'll force them to listen to me, read it to them so that it soaks in. It's kind of like you can't take anything in unless you constantly bathe in it, so to
Yeah.
speak. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's what I do. And it starts to shift people along like and even if they don't fully understand, they develop the trust because they go, here's what we did. Walmart had a bad earnings because they had all these COVID supply. If you remember, everybody went up crazy COVID, bought too much hand sanitizer or whatever. And stock goes down 20%. They're like, I don't want to buy them. I'm like, do you think Walmart will exist a year from today? They're like, of course. I'm like, then why wouldn't we buy it? It'd be like not buying Chick-fil-A stock if you could get it.
Yeah.
They got
Yeah. Yeah.
laps around the place. So those are the types of things where you give them a mental picture and then what you're doing so that they have more awareness of what you're doing, even if they don't understand the mechanics of it. Because people just want to have some feeling like, oh, I trust him and I kind of understand what he's looking to do. That's kind of what I do.
I got it. I got it. So you ask a lot of questions, it sounds like, to understand where your person is in their financial mind. And
Hmm.
I'm sure a lot of times people are not, we have a lot of fear, we have a lot of scarcity, we have a lot of not knowing if we're going to have enough. And we're going to get to that with your book. And so there is a lot of fear around money. I've just experienced it myself is all the work I've done on myself with finances and knowing money is not it's just like such an energy, but get scared. There's not going to be enough. It's like, come on now. You've been working on this for so long. Why is this coming up? Because it's coming up. And you just got to for me, I feel that emotion, and then I have to do the logical work in my head of why that's not true. And one of my coaches like, just ask yourself the question, is that true? And then you answer the question and like, okay, no, that's not true. Why isn't that true? and then go through all of that. So that's how I deal with that fear, but I know a lot of people don't even necessarily recognize that that's what they have around money and the fear that they're not gonna have enough and moving on. So what you wrote a book called The Enough Equation? Did I
Yes.
get it right? Okay.
Yes.
And what made you write that book? What got you there?
One of the things I noticed as I don't really get upset when the markets kind of go crazy, I enjoy finding good buys. And when things go bananas on the other side, I'll sell things because it seems like a mania to me. It just seems natural to me. And with the book, I had learned Stoicism and I wanted to tell a story like this storm where when all this stuff's going on, I can just sit in peace because I meditate, I write, and I write out what I want to do and how I want to do it. And I write ahead of that. So I've been writing constantly since I guess 2010, the same time I started Stoicism. And I would write all my principles and what I wanted to do. And Stoicism aligned with that, where you block all this noise out, then and you start to learn in history. There's a number, I think it's like 68 to 70% of the time Americans are negative as a whole, just kind of naturally. However, like 80% of them are positive on their situation, but they're
Okay,
it,
got
it,
it.
it doesn't even make sense.
It doesn't, but I understand exactly what you're saying.
They're like, I'm doing okay, but I'm worried about Bob or Mary. It's our, and I had to get in and understand that. And once you kind of understand that and you understand what they're listening to, you can then tell how negative they're going to be or positive they're going to be on things. So the book is to give them lessons without talking about finance, sitting in the storm. If it is the end of the world in the storm, it only happens once. No need to worry about it twice. And the storm ends and then it's calm and it's beautiful. Every storm will end. That's what that was. And the other one was the coin in the jar. We're so worried about constantly having the TV on or background noise that he wasn't able to hold the coin in his hand because he was listening to everybody instead of just relaxed and just walking through and being at peace with yourself. We can't grasp onto things if we're constantly trying to grab on everything else. These are just simple principles. So I tell people, if after 15 or 30 minutes, turn the news off. There's nothing.
That's a lot of news. 15 minutes is a lot of ick. It's just
Correct. Most people are just listening to talking heads bark at each other.
yeah.
It's event driven. That's not news. Just get a little news and then do something. Put on music, listen to the violin, and that will make you more at peace with everything because it's overwhelming. But a lot of
Mhm.
people, so that's kind of what the book was designed to do. And the ledger is really about focused on what really matters. For me, sitting with my mother watching a TV show that hadn't watched a TV show in 40 years with my mother. And I remember sitting there and they were saying stuff and it was Australian. And some of the words translate differently than they do here. And we were dying laughing. I got tears in my eyes because we do an annual trip now to, I totally forgot what it's called, Deep Creek Lake. And that to me was priceless. Or they're sitting there flying the drone around teasing my nieces because she had her boyfriend there. You know what I mean? Like that, because when they're 16, 17, like, get away. Those moments matter to me. A couple more dollars or an extra or more hours driving to work. No one ever said, you know what, on my tombstone, I went, he can sit in traffic better than anybody. He won his fantasy football every year. That doesn't matter. So I wanted people to really write down what matters because
Mhm.
a bigger number doesn't matter. But oftentimes we're so focused on a bigger number that we actually make it worse because we're over analyzing everything. So just to kind of bring it down, like your health matters.
Yeah.
And if you can't take care of yourself, then you can't take care of your family.
Yeah. One of the things I go to is the why. Why is this money important to you? And it's not because I can then quit working. It's like, well, why do you want to quit working? Keep going down deeper into the why to get to the real why of why you're doing this. One of the things that you talked about writing down so that you can be calm in a storm. And I just got a big hunk of money and I had written down what I was going to do with it when I got it. And when I got it, I got that whole emotion of fear and a whole bunch of stuff came up. And I was like, okay, but you wrote down what you're going to do. Does that still make sense? Yes. Okay, well, let's go. There's no reason to be scared. We're just going to go with this thing that you thought about before you ever got this money. And this is what you're going to do. And it still makes sense. Let's go. So that being able to be calm in the midst of craziness is so important because there's a lot of craziness. And if you have your plan, if you've taken your time, and that's one of the things that you point out, and that I realize is that people don't take the time to really think about what is enough. When is it enough? When can I, or what's really important to me and what's not important to me? And it's like, it's important to me to spend time with my kids. It's important for me to be able to pick my child up from school every day, no matter what.
Yes.
And I have a friend who this is her thing, but she also gets very frustrated about all the pushback she gets at work because that's what she does. Like, let that go because you decided this was the most important thing to you. Now you can got to let the rest of that go because you get your work done. You get your work done, and it's more important to you to spend time with your daughter and get her to all her activities and then get home to do what's important. That's the bottom line. And take the time to figure that out. That's
Yes.
huge.
And that's one of the things in Stoicism talks. Why worry about everybody else's opinion if you value your own? Like Socrates said, the only way you can avoid criticism is say nothing, do nothing, and be nothing.
Yeah, well,
That's it. That's it. You know? And you just kind of block it out. There is legitimate feedback that people can give you, and your
yes.
best friends
Yes.
aren't nice to you. They're kind to you. They say things that are honest and true, and you'll start to realize that. Like, hey,
Mhm.
I think you could have been more polite with this, or you should have given more time, rather than just saying, "Well, you know, you did great. Just tell me the truth."
Yeah.
And I think oftentimes that's why the relationships and the psychology comes in is because there's two people in my life that they just don't work that way. So I have to preload how I'm communicating with them.
Mm.
I kind of have to like they're glass, jagged glass, and you throw it in the ocean, it comes back and it's smooth. And they're like, "Oh,
Okay.
you're setting me up." I'm like, "I am setting you up." And they already know, so then they're softer. And it's funny because then they don't get nasty with me. They're like, "Oh, I see, I know what you're
I
doing."
got you.
And then I'm just laughing and they're laughing because they know I know what they're gonna do. And so that actually has made some of my relationships better.
I like the one where you said about people that will give you the honest truth. And I've had my daughter was one I told her a situation. She goes, "Well, mom, you could have said that a little better." I was like, "Okay, fine. I'll go apologize."
Yeah. That is somebody who cares and loves you.
Yes.
Because you need that and have those conversations with people. I run more of a boutique where I'm going to give you real feedback. You're not an assembly line. And I think a lot of times people just tell you what you want to hear.
Yeah.
But my goal is to have quality relationships of the water we swim in. And I want to swim well
Yeah.
with those relationships to
I
me.
really like it. I like it. So one of the things that I've taken a bunch of notes from your book. I think I read it a couple times actually. So you guys, it's
It's
not a
easy to
hard
read.
read. It's not a hard read. It's you read it once and then you're gonna put it down. It's like, okay, whatever. And then you're gonna say, huh, okay, let me read that again. And you're gonna pick up some other stuff in there. So one of the things that I wrote down 4 lines here. If you believe that wealth is about control, you'll chase power. If you believe that wealth is about status, you'll chase comparison. If you believe that wealth is about freedom, you'll live differently. Here's the catch. Most people never pause long enough to ask what they believe at all, which is, I believe, 100% true. Where I'm going to work every day, I'm making money, and I don't know why. Truly, I'm doing it because that's what I was told I was supposed to do. And
Correct.
that's why most people are doing that kind of thing. So, one of the things I'm getting that I got from your book is stop and think about, really think about, feel about why you're doing what you're doing, and is it the most important? Is that what you were trying to get out here?
Yes, like redefining what matters. And some people have been stuck in jobs and they're like, maybe we can get you out of the job that you hate at 55 because you have enough and focus on things that you do want to do,
Mhm.
or just rethinking it. Why do you get up in the morning is one of the most important questions. Like, what really motivates you? And now there's things that you might have a kids in college and you can't change that. And that might
Right,
be your shorter term goals. I understand that. But
right.
once you kind of know what you're striving for, life gets better because you have a goal in mind. And so many of us don't have a goal. We're like, we want to lose weight, we want to read more books, but you have to define that goal.
Yep.
Like, I'm going to learn Spanish this year because I go to Costa Rica all the time to go surfing, or I'm going to take 7 trips this year. Whatever that case is, obviously things happen, but wealth is like that. Like, if I'm saving this much money, 10% or 15 or whatever that number is, and then you're constantly coming back and looking at it, you can see progress. And when you see progress, it increases your happiness because you're working towards them. So having written it down, it's like a report card. I was here, I'm now here, I've made progress. And that is or if you fell behind, you at least are tracking it and working towards it. So
Right.
ultimately, you need to define what you do, why you get up in the morning.
Yeah. And that's huge because so many people get up and just keep doing the same thing over and over again, like you said, without ever thinking about the why. And if you're doing something you don't like, you keep doing it. First of all, that is not good for your health. If you haven't figured that out, it's terrible for your health.
It is.
Yes, for a short time, you can keep doing it because I have to, because I got to get my daughter through college. I got to get this done. I got to get, okay, I've got to get, and then I'm going to whatever. But stop and think, figure out your why you're doing what you're doing. And not just because I have to. That's not an answer. Not because I gotta pay this bill, not because I gotta pay that, but not those are not the answers. Those are the superficial answers, and you can get to then why do I have this house? Why do I have that? Why do I what the all the whys that really are gonna make you cry when you get to the bottom. When you cry, you know you got there. That's how I feel about it. When you get the real emotion up, you're there. So I don't know. There's a lot of arguing about money. There's a lot of worry about money. There's a lot of scarcity. There's a lot of all this stuff about it. And I think just what you're saying is because we never stop to figure out what is enough.
What you're saying really resonates with me. And I think a lot of times when we're younger, we're seeing other people having success and we're trying to keep up with them. But now I'm seeing people that maybe we make the same amount of money, but I'm spending my time visiting places in Borneo to rescue orangutans,
Mhm,
and
mhm,
being with people that are struggling, because that to me, or going to help women who lost, or children who were orphaned from the drug trade in Honduras and stuff like that to me matters to me. I don't need more money.
mm.
Wealth is like seawater. The more you drink, the thirstier you get. And as a surfer, I drank a lot of seawater and it doesn't quench your thirst. I can assure. So
Does not.
I start to get real joy. And then the connections I made from that. And I have people all over I was talking to people in Australia, and that warms my heart in a way that I never imagined, but I
Mm,
knew I needed to do more. And when I
mhm.
started doing that, I started to get real fulfillment out of life. And that,
Has your income gone down because you're spending more time doing that kind of stuff?
no,
Yeah.
no. I mean, the way I do things is I just haven't taken on as many people.
Mhm,
And I'm not going to take on people that don't align with me morally, in the
mhm,
sense
mhm.
of I don't want to have arguments over certain. I think you know exactly what I mean.
I do know exactly what you mean.
And so for me, I say to people, I'm never going to be the cheapest. You're going to get better service. You're going to get a boutique. And in that sense, there are people that I help sometimes that I've had to help. But overall, I want to have a relation. I want to get to know you. I want to write things up for you. Most people in my field, it's like an assembly line. They hire people, the advisor sits in front of you. It's nothing wrong with that. It's just they might have 150 or 200 households. I'm only like 40. I might go up to 60 max. That's it. Because I like the work and I like the relationships.
Yeah.
And yeah, I could probably make more money if I was constantly pushing for that, but that isn't going to allow me to do the things that I want to do. And I
And
won't
you'll
feel fulfilled.
and you'll take on people that you don't necessarily wanna be around. I wanna work with people that I wanna be friends with.
Yes.
That's it's like, I don't want to argue with people. I don't wanna feel stressed. I don't want people thinking they didn't get what it's like, I just want peace and other people who want peace. And yes, I have information to give you, and you have information to give me. Let's do this back and forth and be friends and have a good time. And the other people can go somewhere else because that's where they need to be. I'm just not into the whole arguing, just like it's like, yeah, I don't wanna convince you. I mean,
I-
we can have
Yeah.
discourse and be and not agree, and ultimately decide we're not going to agree, but we're still friends. It's just like, I just don't want that stress in my life anymore of trying to convince somebody who doesn't want to be convinced. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, there's fixed-minded people and there's growth-minded people. We can disagree on growth-minded because we're both trying to better ourselves. I
Yeah.
think of us, like the conversation we're having is like a garden. We got to clean it up, get the weeds out and fertilize it. But I want to be with people that want to make great gardens.
Yeah.
As I've gotten older, I have all these plants. I didn't know it when it happened, but I love it. I love the simplicity of being around the plants and the garden and stuff. And to me, that's what you want to be in this where you're playing in the sandbox together. You're working together to make a great garden. You don't want
Yeah.
people just, you know, who don't want to grow. And that's ultimately what matters to me. And
I
if you're
agree.
around people like that, your life will be better. You'll be happier because those people help each other.
Yeah.
They're the sunshine when you need it. They're the fertilizer when you need it, and you're the same for them.
Yeah. That's beautiful. How can people reach you? I know you've got a lot of things going on this year and a lot of good things. So how can they keep up with what you're doing? And if people want to get in touch with you because they like your philosophy and the way you do your work, what how do they get you? And how do they get your book? Let's talk about that too.
If you reach out, I'll send you a free book. Just let me know your address and I'll send you one. It's no problem at all. That if you want to reach me, it's willryoung.com. You can book a call with me, shoot me an email. I just had somebody shoot me one and she was asking about some of the things I've talked about before, ways to save. And we're going to have a meeting and I'll send her a book. I help a lot of my clients because I have good relationships with some of the travel points and stuff like that. So I
Mm,
travel a lot and I've learned to travel for free pretty much.
yeah.
And that's one other way I save money because I don't have to pay for a lot of the flights. So I took like 7 flights last year and I try to go surfing everywhere. Puerto Rico, San Diego, Hawaii, Costa Rica, Bali. So, that's what I like
Nice.
to do. A
Nice.
lot of sunscreen for me.
We might have been on the same number of flights last year. I don't know how many I took, but it was a lot because I also like to travel and I've used a lot of points for travel. It's just like you did, they just keep adding up because the way I spend my money on the card so that I build up the points and then we're heading out again in a couple weeks and bought most of the tickets on points. So it's like, yeah,
Yeah,
nice, nice
it's a
little
good way to
ways.
do it. It's a
Yeah.
good way. And there's some bonuses occasionally too. So if people have questions, I'd love for you to reach out. We can have a conversation. My goal is to work with people who are growth minded, that really want assistance, retirement planning, income tax strategies. I have a unique way to do specialty investment because I do things that are very effective and I tend to look at things way ahead. I was able to get people like ChatGPT and Anthropic back 3.5 years ago before they became well known. So I'm always trying to do things not only years ahead, but I also compete in super forecasting tournaments. So it's one of the ways that helps keeps me very sharp in the market. I love this. I love what I do. I love helping people.
Super forecasting tournaments? What
Yes.
is this?
It's this guy named Philip Tetlock, who is a student from Daniel Kahneman's. He started something called the Good Judgment Project years ago. And he wanted to know, why do people go on TV and say all these wild things? They're often wrong and seldom in doubt. Would we be better just blindfolded, throwing darts at a board?
Okay.
And he was right. And you can look it up. And so now I compete as a super forecaster, and I've 34, my 39 forecasts have been very, very good. I mean, I'm now a super forecaster. I actually got Mondani right this year, which is crazy.
How far in advance are you predicting or forecasting?
Normally it depends on the exact contest, but somewhere between 6 to 12 months is what you typically do.
Okay.
It's really hard to go past that a 1 year out look. So normally what we do is we get like a 1 year out and we put our percentages in and we adjust over time.
Okay.
And that's what you have to do. So, like things that are important to us, the price of oil, gold, the markets, and I do some of the political stuff, but not a whole lot. And occasionally I'll do sports stuff if I feel good and confident about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But most of the time it's market related, economic related. And one of the biggest things I did was I knew that when the guy came into office recently, I knew that Europe would have to spend more money on defense and banks would lend more money. And I actually won that. I was like the top forecaster, like globally, or one of them. And I invested in European banks. They lend more money, they make more money. and that was one of the top stocks. And also, I thought the euro would go up and the dollar would come down because money would go out of the US with the way the tariffs and the behaviors. If you have a neighbor and I holler and scream at you all the time and you're nice to me, you're not going to want to be my neighbor or a good friend. These are
Correct.
very simple things.
Yeah.
And so I was able to use those common knowledge that and not have a bias towards an identity, and able to use that to help my clients make money as well too, because we're having real repercussions. So my goal is to not only do that, I share that with clients and I show them my scores. I love this. I
Yeah.
love whether I love the policies doesn't matter. I love helping people and giving them the insight as to the processes.
Got it.
They
Hey
don't need
guys,
to know everything.
this is not investment advice.
No, no,
You
no.
gotta
This is
talk to
not
your own
investment.
people.
Yeah.
Get personal with somebody before you go there. I just had to throw that in there because
No, no, this
if
is
you
not
hear
advice.
somebody thinking you're giving it, no, this is not investment advice. We don't do that on this show.
This is forecasting advice. And like you, and that's where, like, when you asked me at the beginning, you always have to be willing to adjust. And a lot of people just are unwilling to adjust.
I
They're like,
agree.
I'm going down with the Titanic. I'm like, I'm getting off the Titanic.
I'm taking the lifeboat.
Yeah, I'm taking the lifeboat. For some reason, a lot of people do that. They're like, I'm like, why? You don't have to go down with it. But their ego is so big. And I'm like, oh, I'm wrong, but I'm willing to change my mind very quickly. But
Yep.
so many people are unwilling to do that.
Evidence shows that I am wrong. It's time to change. So
Yes.
that just, you got to look at the evidence. And like you said, be open-minded about what's going on. Okay. The book is The Enough Equation. You can be found at willyoung.com.
WillRYoung.com.
willryoung.com. This is going to be in the show notes, you guys. I just wanted to make sure I said it again. And that's how you can reach him to get a copy of the book. That's how you can reach him to schedule a call and see if working with Will as a financial advisor would work for you. I think he's got and then can get into your behaviors and help you understand what's going on in your world. I think it'd be amazing. Will, thank you so much for coming on. This has been really fun. I
This
appreciate
has been fun. I thank you so much for having me on. This was an enjoyable conversation.
All right, Will. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. And I will talk to you again soon. Thank you so much.